to you today about stress because as a certified yoga therapist, what I see all the time and what I've written about a lot is that so many of our physical and emotional issues are caused by stress. And I feel qualified to talk about it not only because of the training that I have done to become a certified yoga therapist, but because of my life experiences. I, from a very young age, was diagnosed with stress-related issues. And these were at a time when I really was not going through what most people would think of, oh my God, she's got a lot of stress in her life. So what I understand is that different people are hardwired to manage stress in different ways. And my body responds to stress in ways that are not positive. Even though I would say my entire life I have always been like the coolest, calmest person that certainly in my family, nothing will upset me. But inside, it takes a toll. So I want to talk a little bit about my professional background because a lot of you don't know about my professional background that I've had for 45 years. In addition to straddling all of the holistic work that I do and all the training that I've done in that area, for 45 years I've been in the marketing communications world. And I always worked for the biggest names in corporations, and I was a road warrior. I was, traveling. Probably 20% of my time was on the road, and I was working 7 days a week. 80-hour weeks was very normal, and it was common to work through chaos, to work through crises, and to work through constant pressure. I mean, that was the norm. And I will say that in terms of the crises, I actually became an expert in crisis communications because I went through so many crises early on in my career. And when I say crises, I'm talking about managing a crisis. I'm not talking about like, oh gee, she went through some personal problem with her boss or whatever. I'm talking about from a business perspective, a crisis that happens, and how we take that crisis and move beyond the crisis and do all the patchwork, and the nourishing and the replenishing, both from the employee standpoint, to the community standpoint, to the consumer standpoint, to get beyond the crisis. And an anecdote which I kind of think is funny, and it's not, is when I lived in Florida. At one point, I was on duty, on call on weekends, and when I got called on weekend once, my daughter responded and said, "Was somebody shot?" Meaning shot and killed. And she was probably, I don't know, maybe 6 years old at the time. And unfortunately, those were the kinds of calls that I would get. I would get the kinds of calls when there would be a murder, a suicide, bomb threats, things like that. And throughout my career, I have worked very closely with security. For 20 years, I worked with a national company, a national nonprofit, and I managed all of their media relations for a national convention. And I routinely liaised with Secret Service to prepare for visits of people such as President Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, Vice President Biden, Dr. Jill Biden, people like that. So we were, even though I am a marketing communications specialist, we never worked in silos. We always worked looking at the whole picture. Another one of my really interesting campaigns that I worked on was I worked with Delta Airlines on their inaugural flights to Peru. And as part of that, I worked with the security department, and I worked, of course, with the communications department and government affairs and all sorts of, high-level officials, because I worked with the CEO of Delta Airlines was coming to Peru, and so in anticipation of his visit, we didn't just look at what we were going to do from a marketing perspective, but I literally went to Peru to do an advanced trip with the head of security to check out everything from carros blindados, which are the protected cars. Can't think of what they're called in English, but it's blindado is in Spanish. And, looking at everything from a security perspective. So I did become an expert in crisis communications. But anyway, enough about that. What I want to talk about is how that affected me, and when crisis is the norm, and when you know that your constitution does not deal well with a crisis, even though, again, there could be the biggest catastrophe and I'm outwardly super cool about it. But a couple of simple tips that I want to give to you, that these are things that I have been doing, again, for 40 years, because I learned holistic remedies ages ago. But the first thing is breath work. So one of the things, I'm going to give you these examples from the point of if you are stuck in an airplane. But obviously, if you can do this anywhere, but an airplane is the more difficult to do. But whenever I would be on an airplane, if I was taking a transatlantic flight to Europe, I did not sleep on the plane, and I did not sleep when I got to my destination. I had a full day of work when I got to my destination. But the way that I nourished myself, the way that I grounded myself, and the way that I relaxed myself was, one, through breath work. Wherever I was, seated, scrunched up with people next to me, I would do my breath work. So there are so many different breathing techniques. Check out some of my other YouTube videos or my website, thenamastecouncil.com. Under Yoga RX, I show a lot of different breathing techniques. So number one, to me, a lifesaver was breath work. Number two, you have to release the tension in your body. So it's normal that if things are going on, oh my God, our bodies automatically tense up. So you need to relax them. And one of the best ways to relax the tension in the body is to just simply tighten up some of the muscles. So right now I'm tightening up my muscles right here. I'm squeezing my fist. I like to squeeze my fist really, really tightly, and then boom, relax. So again, you can very easily do that when you are seated in an airplane. I'm going to show you another example of that. The upper back and the neck are typically what get extremely tense. So squeeze those shoulder blades back as tightly as you can. Squeeze, 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 and then release. And you can just feel all the tension dissipating from the body. So those are two. Another one is to just focus on something positive. So again, in an airplane, I sometimes would take my own chill out type of music, and I knew I wasn't going to sleep. I knew I wasn't going to be able to sleep, even though I would have liked to. So I would just put on the headsets and listen to really soothing music. And again, instead of sleeping, that soothing music was enough to kind of nourish me and give me what I needed instead of a night's sleep. So one, breath work. Two, release the tension by tightening and then releasing. Three, find what you love, such as music. Number four, this is more personal, but I'm a big reader. I've been reading since I was, I swear to God, my mom says I learned how to read when I was 2 years old. So I've always been a major reader. So to me, reading is one of the ways that I have self-care or self-love. And when I worked 80-hour work weeks, there was no way that I could ever read. When I was on planes going everywhere across the world for work, I had to be working in the plane. But I could still have moments when I could read. So, for example, before, as the plane was taking off, or as we were landing, or if I was in the airport waiting in line, I could read a book. And however few pages that was, it was enough to kind of give me some of that intellectual and spiritual sustenance that I needed. So that's my number 4. So again, that is something personal. You have to find what's right for you. And then the 5th one that I'm going to say is visualization. Find something positive to visualize on. And I actually talked about this in my book. But one of the things that I would do, since I was constantly surrounded and bombarded with people that were freaking out and again, just constantly amid crises, is I would focus on people and smiles. They do say a smile is contagious. And even if you are surrounded by people that are like freaks for like nervous nillies and just, the kind of people that can never chill out, it doesn't matter who you are with or surrounded with. Just take a couple minutes and again, pretend you're in a plane and you can be seated next to people that are giving you an amazingly hard time. Close your eyes just for a little bit and focus on a beautiful smile of somebody you know. So I like to talk about the Dalai Lama's smile because it is just so special. But there are other people in my life who I've known who have had incredible smiles, and so I would just focus on their smiles. So anyway, my 5 tips to getting through tension and stress to get more grounded and to get more centered are 1, breath work. 2, release physical tension. 3, listen to soothing music or whatever music makes you relax. 4, for me it's reading, but whatever that may be for you. A lot of people find that something like running is the way that they can release their tension, or singing, whatever. And then 5, focus on something positive, like a smile. And you really will see that when you focus on a smile, your entire body feels good and you're relaxed. So anyway, those are my 5 tips for how to deal with stress. And again, I believe I'm an expert for living with stress-related physical conditions and for having lived through extremely stress-related profession and career. So thank you for joining. Please comment below. Please like, please subscribe, and please share. And of course, follow me on Instagram, Deborah Charns, and check out my Facebook pages, which are the Namaste Council and the Right Council. From my heart to yours, namaste. And get centered, get calm, say goodbye to your stress.